Can you hear me all right? All right. So, today, how does this?
There you go.
Oh! I figured out how it works, I think. Yeah, there we go. So today, we're going to be talking about hidden. And boy, do I know a lot about being hidden. I run a global campaign with over 1.5 million stickers stuck on all 7 continents around the globe, working on massive murals and installations, some spanning entire city blocks. Based here in Chicago, but reaching most major cities in the US and beyond, Portland, Philadelphia, New York, Los Angeles, down to Texas, across Indiana, over to Italy, back to Chicago, collaborating with thousands of artists and designers from every corner of the world, interacting with hundreds of thousands of supporters who make up the community. Doing this all close to a decade without my name being mentioned one single time. What's funny is you'll have many reasons to hide, but it's a mistake to stay hidden. My first solo show in Chicago was called Multipolar. It was a group show of 3 different types of work done by 3 different pseudonyms. One paper ran it as a group show, another as a solo show. I was so bummed that someone had leaked. It's funny, it's really fun to develop a narrative. It's like peeling back the layers of an onion. Not giving it all away, but making the person work for it, investigate. And it was such good fun. Each of the pseudonyms had a different body of work, their own websites, their own social media accounts, and that was part of the art. But it was also utterly exhausting. It's exhausting to hide, isn't it? Pretending to be someone else. I mean, I found great enjoyment in the confusion, and I also realized that I felt safe behind these disguises. I was invited to be in an exhibition in Chonburi, Thailand, and I had been having these secret art interactions with strangers via Craigslist. I would meet them in public places in full disguise and give them a portrait I made of them from their text descriptions of themselves. It was much more innocent than it sounds. This girl hugged me, so I wasn't so creepy. I was informed there would be a catalog and they needed my photo. I laughed so hard when I received a few copies. Fake name, disguised photo. I mean, how great is that? There were so many jobs that I worked on that a line item in the contract said that my name could not be publicly mentioned. And sure, my ideas and work have made it into a lot of noteworthy publications, books, and TV. But it was more than that. It was an adventure to see how many different ways I could infiltrate all sorts of society and media in a positive way without my name being ever known. Like when your mom happens to be flipping through Midwest Living magazine in 2009 and sees a photo of an edition she knows you've been working on and calls to say, "They really should have printed your name." And it's a good point. If you can't openly share all of you, you can't really be yourself. And what I've finally come to realize is that it's selfish to hide. When calling a friend one afternoon, they picked up and I said, "Hey, it's Matthew." And I realized right then and there that that was the most truest, most transparent, most intimate way I let people know who I was. It was the complete opposite of all the hiding games. So I immediately bought the domain, heyitsmatthew.com, and now when I call people and say, "Hey," I often get the .com after. But things take time. It would be another 3 or 4 years before I was publicly outed and took credit for the first time for the work that I had been doing over the last decade. I love to make things. That's probably why I enjoy working with wood so much. It gets me away from the computer, out of my chair. It gives me the space and freedom to think. Many prominent individuals say their best ideas come while taking a shower. Mine come when my hands are busy and the air is full of sawdust. Wood is natural and has a human quality to it. It's not consistent. One board acts entirely different than another. It takes patience and great care. And like a human, if you rub it the wrong way, you're going to have a problem. But if you do it right, you can do amazing things together. In 2010, I offered a series called What Would You Say, WOOD, where you could get whatever you wanted cut out of wood. It was under the name Sign for Multipolar Projects, and the font was taken from the infamous It's Okay, a hand-cut limited edition of 1,000,000 that had been gracing storefronts and fairs, European magazine covers, morning news programs, evening news pieces, to all sorts of unintended uses. These DIY interactions led me to expand what I was doing. And the responses to this interactive piece was overwhelming. I cut out an endless amount of inside jokes, sayings, and even a marriage proposal. I loved it. It was so fascinating. And here I am directly collaborating with the viewer. And almost every single piece was a gift to someone else. I'm creating something that, I don't know, might be a legacy piece, a hand-me-down through generations. This is the piece that your grandfather proposed to me with. I mean, that's pretty cool. Last December, I re-released the idea, but this time on steroids. Framed in a shadow box, ready to hang, you type in your phrase, you pick a color option, bright and bold or subdued. And then, in my opinion, the next step is the craziest. You trust me, and I send you a final piece, sight unseen. Every detail was considered, down to the packaging and even the backs of the frames. Here's just a very small sampling. Life is an improvisation. Sally from Toronto, Canada. Never bored. Brian from Chicago, Illinois. Just you and me, simple and free. Diane, Green Lawn, New York. Big love, Cocoa Mouse. Mike, London, England. Always feed your brontosaurus. Carly, Moscow, Idaho. I love you more than coffee. Laura, Lockport, New York. I'm beautiful for the one who loves me. Pascal from Schur, Switzerland. You asked me to dance. Fiona, Toronto, Ontario. Bunny Hearts Geek. Melissa from Wan Chai, Hong Kong. I'm directly helping people tell their stories. These works are going into people's homes around the world. And because the messages are so personal, they'll likely keep them forever. When the world is so epically large, it's rare to have this type of intimacy. So on to the bigger picture. Why did I stay so hidden for so long? It began simply with the fact that I loved the idea of quietly putting up a sticker for someone else to find. It was my way of interacting with others without having to bear the actual interaction. I can count on my right hand the number of times I've handed a sticker to a stranger. Every time, completely blushed, cold sweats, and I swore I'd never do it again. In Tom Rath's book, Strength Finder, the idea is that you focus on your strengths, being the absolute best at what you do, and to not spend energy on and trying to do the things that you're not good at better. So that's what I did. If it didn't feel right, I skipped it. On one hand, I love to do exciting things. I get bored very easily, and that's likely why most of the projects I've taken on are so extreme. I live for the work. But outside of that, I like things a little more still, a little more quiet. A few years ago, I moved from the trendy Bucktown neighborhood in Chicago north to a little more secluded area. It's quiet, there's no chance of running into anyone, and I like that I can take a quick walk to the store and not worrying about showering. I like the anonymity. But you can't stay hidden. Not only is it not fair to all of us, but in today's world, it's really impossible. At the end of last year, Melissa Harris wrote an article about me in the Chicago Tribune. It ended up on the front page of the business section, and in this new area of reporting about me, it's not just talking about abstract ideas, staying hidden, my sweet spot, but it focused on me, the person. The next day, I was walking down the street, and my 80-year-old neighbor sped out of his house towards me. "Saw you in the paper." I froze. I was completely unprepared and off in my own world. I stammered something like, "Oh, yeah, no big deal." And he said, "They could have picked a more flattering photo of you." The thought of being under a microscope is unsettling, isn't it? That's why we hide, right? We're scared. We're scared of being judged, of being ridiculed, really letting other people know who we really are. It can be hard to like yourself. Paul Octavius was kind enough to shoot these photos for this talk, and I told him they might be the first photos I've ever really liked of myself. They're me. I'm just doing my thing and not hiding. But it all comes down to intention. I finally realized I'm interested in creating moments. I'm not ultimately concerned about what it looks like, how it's made, or where it's placed. Don't get me wrong, those are very important. But where it starts and ends for me is a way to create a brief moment for the viewer. It's the idea. I want this idea to become a household name. I don't care if my name is remembered, but the idea of it. The idea of being more human to each other, that it becomes so ingrained, it's second nature. Our time today is very limited. To pack all this into 20 minutes was a task. So I just want to show you a few images from the thousands that have been sent in over the years from individuals around the world. After a hurricane in Pensacola, Florida, simple party streamers to the front page of the paper. A mural in Indianapolis, Indiana, some leftover plastic in Kaunas City, Lithuania, a banner in Oberlin, Ohio, pasting in London, England, one guy, an empty swimming pool, and some bricks in the Republic of Serbia, a flashlight in Savannah, Georgia, a storefront in Mobile, Alabama, stencils in Dublin, Ireland, fish in Bangkok, Thailand, a clothing line on a street in Germany, rocks on a bridge embankment in St. Paul, Minnesota, a wall in Bucharest, Romania, sidewalk chalk in Dallas, Texas, above a skate shop in St. Paul, Minnesota, a construction site in Long Beach, California, a small sign in London, England, cut out of wood in Franklin, Tennessee, stickers in Lille, France, at the Cadillac Ranch in Amarillo, Texas, yarn bombing on a bridge in New York City, a roving installation stuck in the snow in Toronto, Canada, a bridge in Arlington, Texas, a banner in Hong Kong, Thailand, written in the snow in Pennsylvania, written with flowers in San Francisco, stacks of cards and stacks of stickers in San Diego, hand-stitched in Halifax, Canada, another in San Diego, California, up high in Ireland, around the waist in Battleground, Washington, a necklace in Indiana, to a massive piece in the sand in Mexico, to a staircase in the Netherlands. Can you feel it? Can you feel the landscape changing? Something's happening here. It's a cultural shift, a human movement. And it's not just for a niche segment either. This spans from an 8th grade girl getting permission from her principal to come in early to school and put these handwritten notes in every locker, all the way to the other end of a spectrum, to an assisted living center in Florida, handing out balloons and good cheer. These photos are from Tuesday, 3 days ago. And the thing that I am personally most proud of is what might be happening with that troubled kid. That kid who knocks over the newspaper box, slamming it to the ground, who spray paints ugly sayings and desperate thoughts on walls. And in that darkest moment, they write this. They scratch it into a bathroom wall. You can feel it just looking at these scars in the wall. There's empathy here. Instead of writing down what the man or get bent, dumping on the next person who reads it, they write this. My friend Tanner Woodford sent this photo to me from a Logan Square bathroom last month. When I was a kid, I wore baggy jeans, hoodies with patches. I wrote 9-inch nails and anarchy symbols on stuff. I didn't know what I was doing. I was searching. I was looking for a way to belong. So now kids are writing, "You are beautiful"? That's awesome. And if you're turned off by property damage, I agree, it's not the best way. So let's give these knuckleheads some free public art that's legal in every city where they can create. They're going to do it either way. So let's give them some positive outlets. I'm now in the place where I get a lot of great opportunities to make cool things. And so my next step is to offer these opportunities to others. This project has sustained itself by the simple principle that the community supports it by purchasing sticker packs. Every sticker you buy goes back into spreading the message. A big part of that has been not hiding anymore. It's been difficult, and it hasn't been easy. Dawn Hancock asked me to make this piece for her new office at Firebelly. She had a 16-foot wall, so I went end to end. That's my little guy in the captain's chair. I swore her to secrecy, and in her blunt way, she said, "You're being an idiot." And she was right. But I've always wanted to promote ideas more than I wanted to promote myself. And when you don't do things for money or prestige, it's really confusing. When Heath Ledger's character, the Joker, burns that mountain of money, it makes you really uncomfortable. You suddenly realize someone's not playing by the rules. Now, I'm not suggesting utter chaos and destruction, but I am suggesting to do things in a different way. You often have to figure out how to work within the system, but to the extreme edge. Tibor Kalman took what was essentially a promotional material for a clothing company and said, "Hey, we're all equal, no matter where we live, what we look like, and diversity is awesome." And if you can shake people, and you can do that in a positive way. But back to me being an idiot. Dawn and the Firebelly team were incredibly generous in offering to design this book, A Decade of You Are Beautiful. It's sort of a tell-all, an answer to the why, and more transparent than I ever thought I'd be. It was overfunded by 700 people via Kickstarter. Thank you. Will Miller and Nick Adam had free reign to do whatever they wanted, and boy, did they deliver. They filtered through over 30,000 files from over 10 years. And through all that, we only had one disagreement on vision. One of the cover drafts had my name on the front cover. I've never hyperventilated, but I'll bet I was pretty close. We moved it to the spine, and I still asked if we could just nix it. And even though the exchange was over email, I could feel their eyes rolling. Sometimes the biggest battle we have is with ourselves, right? I was struggling one afternoon while writing the book. It was so hard to put down a decade of my life into a few pages. So many stories and lives interweaving, it would be impossible not to leave a lot out. I was struggling, going nowhere, and had lost clarity. I was moments away from throwing up my hands. So I pulled out a piece of paper, grabbed a marker, and wrote the first thing that came to my head. I ran downstairs and taped it to the front door. And as strange as it sounds, it felt good. I had accomplished something. Likely, this had a lot to do with working so closely with Rick Valcenti. If you've ever been fortunate enough to have a one-on-one with him, he's fervently drawing the entire conversation. And by the time you leave, you have a stack of typing paper with a visual explanation of what just happened. It takes the intangible and gives it a physical handle on it. And after a while, I forgot it was there. The immediateness had started to wear off, and I didn't really notice it. People like Victor stopped by, saw it, and Instagrammed it. One night, someone ran into my car in the street. It wasn't that bad, but I had to file a police report. And as the officer was leaving, he gave me the biggest grin and said, "So you're glad I'm here?" I didn't know what to say, and he pointed over my shoulder, and I just burst out laughing. It goes to show you that when you do one little thing, you have no idea where it will go. So let's get physical. Each one of you today is going to leave with one of these kits. This isn't a gift bag. This is a call to action. You have everything you need: 5 sheets of paper, 5 pieces of tape, and a custom Sharpie. The only thing missing is an excuse. And I insist that you write something on all 5 sheets today and put them up somewhere. Take a photo of each and tag it, "Let's Be Human." I found 21 posts with this tag. Here's a dog sitting in a chair like a human from 36 weeks ago. So let's flood that tag today. In some way or another, we all hide. Use this as an excuse to share, to be human to each other, and to stop hiding. Thank you. So now to the likely really uncomfortable part. We're going to do a Q&A for a few minutes. So if anyone has any questions. Yes? The question was that the phrase "you are beautiful" is about being seen, and how does that pointing out to someone, yeah, and the contradictoriness of it, that I've been so hidden. Well, I mean, I think that you know, the idea of "you are beautiful" is that everyone, inside, outside, in whatever different way, that there's some ideal about you that is beautiful. So the fact that you're seen or hidden, the fact that I'm running a huge project and still, you know, completely screwed up and staying hidden, that even that is okay. That just everything's okay as it's happening, I think, is the main sort of message that encompasses that project. Yeah. The question is the global project, and then doing the custom pieces now as a way to not be hidden. In 2007 is when I started Multipolar Projects, which was sort of other artwork outside the You Are Beautiful project. The You Are Beautiful project started in 2002. And then I think 2011 is when I sort of started up Hey, It's Matthew. So I've always seen them as very two separate things. So you kind of can work on in different aspects. So definitely this sort of side tangent was less hidden. And now they're kind of all kind of coming together into one big thing. Thanks. Yeah. So the question is, how has social media impacted the project over the 10 years? And yeah, 10 years ago, there wasn't Facebook. You know, there weren't all these sort of outlets. So how I have sort of all those images that people emailed them in. I think now the message is getting spread so much greater and so much wider, but there's also maybe less of a central, you know, tinge to it. You can hashtag YAB sticker, and it automatically kind of posts on our website. And we released that last April, and I think there's 2,200 photos. So that's pretty cool. I mean, like, that's 5 or 6 photos a day. Where that doesn't get into is that now there's not the direct interaction of people sending us the photos. So it is it's like it's getting spread out further, and there's sort of less control and less even knowing what's even happening. So that is really, really cool, and also hard to keep track of and hard to document. Yeah. Yes? The question is, do I remember where I put the first sticker? I believe if that photo with the business card size green, brownish sticker isn't the first sticker I ever put up, it's one of the very first. I ordered a very small batch from an online printing site. And again, 10 years ago, there weren't sort of all the, you know, printing resources that we have now. So I ordered business card stickers, had them green to match the color of lampposts. They came back brown and pixelated. They weren't weatherproof. They didn't even actually stick to sort of like a lamppost because they were just awful. So, you know, you kind of learn step by step and go from there. So I think that's the first sticker. Yeah. The question was, will I continue to unhide? I think that the book is maybe a great example that you need really supportive people around you, sort of helping you, you know, fight the battle against yourself. I think it's really important to stay unhidden. And I think my first inclination is to hide. I just love the idea of celebrating something more than like celebrating me. I think it's that Midwestern mentality and that humbleness, but you can take it too far. So yes, I think I will continue, but with the help of others. Yeah, yes. So the question is about positive placemaking. And I think a lot of the early installations were without permission. And so, again, I mean, I've always felt like I've toted a very good line between beautifying an area and vandalism. And so I would purposely pick areas that, like a boarded up storefront, it already has plywood, it's already painted brown by the city. So let's make that, you know, beautiful. Let's add to that. Like, let's make the community even better. And so a lot of times when you did come in, and if you did it properly, the community and the immediate neighborhood around it would support it and encourage it. And so now it's more people are coming to me asking to sort of create something in their space. And so yeah, you enter each project and try to figure out what's the best way to have sort of personal and public and have all the different sort of aspects interweaved. The question is, why those 3 words? I spent a good amount of time looking at different phrases, looking at different projects, trying to figure out the perfect phrase that was true in all circumstances, no matter what. If you said you are cool or you're awesome, that's maybe not always the case. So I felt like that phrase really captured the universal essence of what could just, you know, go all around the world. And so in 2006, we did 31 different language translations. And I'm actually working right now to get those retranslated and put those out into the world, like literally as we speak. And the challenge is our word of beauty, in other cultures, it means pretty. Or some of them don't have just that sweet, cohesive, translation that we have. The question is, with anonymity, do other people, or could other people take credit? And yeah, over the last decade, people have written into the official email account like, hey, Jeff, met you at this, at this concert. It's so awesome, that project that you're doing. I mean, and then there's been people that have run this campaign in other major cities, and they didn't intend to become the authors, but since maybe they did like 20 or 30 large installations in that city began to think that it was their project and that the people behind it were the ones behind it. And as strange as it sounds, I don't mind that. I mean, this isn't about me. It's about spreading this positive message. And so however that takes place, that's fine with me. Yeah, so the question is about copyright and intellectual property. I've looked into that, and since the phrase is so sort of open, it's very hard to copyright that. McDonald's can do, I'm loving it, but they're also a huge corporation. So not to sound naive, I just haven't worried about it. And we'll just see where the chips fall. Yeah. Yes? So the question is, if my name had been attached to it from the start. I mean, it's impossible to know. Yeah. But I think that one of the most crucial things about it is that it empowers people and that people can own it and run with it. I think that probably the spread might not have been as great. Again, I guess it goes back to just celebrating the simple phrase and that it's delivered in such almost a bland way, Helvetica type on a silver sticker, that it looks like a manufacturing sticker, as if it's meant to be there and blend in and then kind of pop out. So if it had been treated in a different way, like here are the guidelines to use it and that type of thing, I don't think we'd be where we are today.
So that's like a positive aspect of like staying hidden in that respect for so long too.
Yeah. Well, thanks. So I did something right. Yeah. Yes. So the question was, what did I do before this? What did I do in school? I was born in Ohio, went to school in Indiana for college, and then came here for my first job in 2002. So I, state by state, I had a very vast, travel path. And so when I moved here in 2002, that's when everything just started. In a way, I kind of started fresh. So yeah, and all the work then before that would have been college. I studied graphic design. My parents were always supportive of everything I did, but they said you better get a degree in something you can get a job in. And so went that path, but I was sort of a terrible design student. I never really kind of came to class. I did sort of like all sorts of, basically, installations and not necessarily street art because it was all temporary, but all sorts of different projects. Like I put on fake exhibitions by famous dead artists, and I actually got a lot of heat for that because I fooled everyone, like the dean and the professors, and I thought it was awesome and funny. And I think that's where I learned some of the hardest lessons about it's fine to trick people, or it's fine to do things that get people to think or shake them, but you need to have them in on the conversation, and you need to bring them along. And I was basically just pranking everybody. So I think my maturity grew through that, and then, kind of went on. Yes?
Do you self-fund this project, this initiative?
The question is, do I self-fund this initiative? Yeah. But, like I said, I've been just getting a lot of great opportunities. So now the support has been coming in, and now I don't have to do that anymore. The very first batch of silver stickers that I ever printed was $658. I can remember that specifically because my rent was $750. And I did not have a dollar to scratch together for 2 months. I almost missed my rent. And so then it took about 10 years to print the first 500,000 stickers. And the last year we've printed about 1 million. And all sorts of other products, from stamps and tape and shirts and posters and things. And so not only do I have the sort of the artwork that I create, then the large commission public work, but the community has really come together and has supported the project by purchasing the stuff. Yeah, so now it's a big cohesive thing.
There's time for one more question.
Okay. So the question is, when did I first realize this was kind of huge? I think still today, and I'm dedicated to sort of doing this forever, but you can send a self-addressed stamped envelope to the P.O. box and get 5 free stickers. And I just made a single HTML page. It had that on there, and all of a sudden just mail started coming every day. And I was like, oh. And so I opened a P.O. box just because, I just couldn't handle it. And then I got the smallest P.O. box, which, I don't know, I think holds like 50 pieces of mail. And every day, like, the postmaster would call and be like, if you don't get that box cleared out, you're going to have to buy a bigger box. And so I just checked it more often. I was really cheap about it. But I think like that, to me, that was the physical understanding of what was happening. Just all these boxes and boxes of mail coming in every day with letters. A lot of them had just like, full 2-page notebook paper letters. So that, I think, was I started to see that.